What's going on? Move the mouse here back in the PC version of City Skylines, and I wanted to revisit and rebuild one of my old cities, and I thought a great starting point would be Season 1 of the Let's Play, Rockdale. So I'd started messing around in this offline, and I got thinking this was kind of interesting, and I could probably turn this into a series. And I'd posed the question in the Discord if people might be interested in that, and the response was pretty good. So here we are. This is not going to be a Let's Play, because we're going to be stamping out this massive grid. But I want to talk about some of the major steps in the city, kind of give you some little cinematics along the way. So again, this isn't going to be about kind of following a step-by-step tutorial on this. So just keep that in mind. I want to talk about all the different concepts. I want to talk about how I'm building out the neighborhoods and why I'm putting roads in certain spots, and let you kind of expand based on your own needs. So we'll talk about the theory about why we're building the way we're building, and then just kind of stamp that out and do your own thing. Now, to be fair, with fair warning, some of this design may be a little bit unexciting to some people, because Rockdale was a big grid, but I have got some ideas on, one, how to make that a lot more aesthetically pleasing by kind of growing the city into a taller downtown center, concept that I didn't really know at the time, and definitely helps make a big difference in the overall look and feel of the city. One of the things I hated about Rockdale on console is the fact that it had this super hard edge to the town on one side of the map, where you could just, see where the tile ran out. You didn't need to be out of cinematic mode to know where the edge of the town was. And PC is going to let us buy all 81 tiles and have that huge downtown center, but feather things off, and we'll build some farms and little townships on the edge of the map. We'll have some fun with it, and again, we'll talk more about the theory of building this town than the actual step-by-steps. Now, one thing I really want to try to remember to do is come into my cinematic camera mode and come up with a good kind of screenshot, or not even screenshot, but I want to kind of time-lapse this build. So one of the ways we can do that is by defining a camera spot and then keep coming back to that throughout the build. So I'll need to remember to do that, and hopefully I will. It's something new, so forgive me if I forget, but at least we'll get a before and after here on the city and kind of where we've started this build in the first episode. So again, this isn't going to be a full Let's Play. We're going to talk more about the theory of why we're building it, and we're going to assume some of the basics, that we're not going to get into the ongoing management of city services. We'll talk about placement of some of those things, but again, it's not going to be a full-on Let's Play, so hopefully you like the different format. With that out of the way, I think this is a good little camera angle right there. All right, so we've set up this little basic sweeping cinematic. We'll do that again at the end of the episode, and hopefully at some points in between, and then I'll have kind of this fade that we can slowly fade in different parts of the city, kind of as we're doing things as we go. It may not make sense now, but it will soon enough. So we're building on the map arid plains, and the other thing we're doing is we're kind of playing with the cheats on here. We're just doing this to build the city. But unlike what I've seen a lot of other creators do that I follow, is they kind of build the city first and foremost for the aesthetics. Yeah, I want to make it look aesthetically appealing, but I also want to build it to actually function. So we're going to kind of grow the city organically, meet the needs, kind of as they crop up. So we're still playing the game. This is the first house. We want to come over 2 from each direction. We'll buy the 25 to start. Right, it's this one. Did I already come over too far? I did. So real quick, before I even started, I bought everything but the outer ring of tiles for now, because we're going to try not to build on the very, very edge. But we may come in later and mound this off and tunnel a highway through there and make the edges just look a little bit less of that drastic drop-off. The rest of the this side looks pretty good, but you just see that kind of go off into nowhere. Whereas if it was a hill, from this perspective, you don't get that impression that the map's just dying there. So we'll work on that, but that's much later. This first episode is going to be all about kind of redesigning the highway, because one of the first things, my battery backup is beeping. My battery backup is not happy with me. Apparently I'm drawing a lot of power right now. So before we start moving anybody in, I kind of want to have this, at least the start of a skeleton for our city. And I'm kind of imagining kind of where things are going also. So maybe we can sketch out a couple rough ideas while we think about kind of where to bring the highway through here. So I think this is going to be a good spot for a major exit into this area, this immediate area. And it's going to be kind of one of our first districts. But I'm going to do the turbine here. And I think it makes sense to actually flow that highway through here where this flat part is. And we can kind of bring this down into another city down here, or another major part of the downtown. And there's already train tracks that we can access that way. So that's good for bringing in maybe a commuter rail. Because this is going to be where this spot you see on map, this flat part by the river, and over here, I think this is going to be our focus of our major grid-based downtown area, modern city center approach. And then we'll do some landscaping and terraforming, and we'll get some farms going out towards the edge of the map, and smaller suburbs tucked away over here somewhere. We'll try and make these little cities, but again, I want to do this kind of the way the game wants us to. I want to use the in-game mechanics. We'll kind of zone for the most part, but we'll pop some buildings down here or there. But I'm already thinking too far ahead. What we need to do is kind of consider that if there's a highway coming, through here, that's not really where we want to focus any of our major efforts on districting or building anything. We kind of want to have this artery through the city that's going to carry traffic from that highway down to here. And maybe we'll, link up with this highway and loop through here and connect back up. We'll even talk about how we can name and number that realistically for North American highway systems. But again, problems and information for a future episode, squirrel. So now that we've kind of thought about, where our highway's coming through here, well, now we can start to think about a couple neighborhoods that we might have. And we're going to have relatively large neighborhoods, at least in this downtown area. I don't want to go crazy doing tons of districts if I don't have to. But what I thought is we could do something like this is, let's see where our sun comes up. At least by default. Where is it? Over there? So the sun is rising on that side. So I thought what we could do here is something like this. This district could be called Sunnyside. And this one, Riverside. And maybe we name it Park, but basically what I'm thinking here is these are going to be primarily residential districts. But we'll have, commercial on the main drags. We'll start to introduce things like office space. But this is going to be a relatively kind of the smaller part of the town. We don't want to go crazy high all over the place, even though we're going to go, or at least what I'm envisioning is a very grid-based modern city center kind of approach. We want it to look like it kind of grew that way over time. And this is going to kind of allow us to focus on these two areas to start. It's a little out of proportion, but I'm sure somebody's thinking something dirty. Down this way, okay? Let me just, I don't know, paint a big circle here before anybody gets any other ideas about my districting. So down here we can start to get kind of, into maybe this is where our financial center is in the major downtown. And then, we've got another neighborhood over here. Maybe this is kind of like a wildland or reserve or something. And then we have just a little, neighborhood and road that connects over that way. We could have kind of our industrial and train section and the noisier part of town, maybe like the airport over here. Is there a bigger... Yeah, that would have been easier about 5 minutes ago. And then we'll have at least one or two maybe neighborhoods up this way. Maybe we should just do that now. Maybe we can kind of assume the same thing, that there'll be this basic connection coming that way. We shouldn't commit anything but major roadways over there. And then we'll have kind of the same approach, but maybe these will be where we transition, a little bit of high density, high rise band over here. and then all suburbs out this way. We could do, again, some terraforming and have some farming. So we'll have a road that goes like that way. I know I'm making a bunch of bogus districts, but I'm actually doing this on purpose to kind of remind me later on what we could do with different areas. So here we have, you know, some factories or stuff out here on the outside edge, or we have, you know, a really forest heavy industry in the factories that rely on wood a lot. We can bring stuff in via train. We could do something with this. I could probably make it a little bit brighter for you. Again, things that would have been useful 5 minutes ago. Over here in the original build of Rockdale, we had kind of this circular city thing happening over here, and I wouldn't mind trying my hand at that again, doing a little bit of an update on that. Certainly now that we can really kind of sculpt the terrain a lot more than we could back in the day, back in Rockdale 1.0. So now that we've kind of painted out these quick ideas, now what we want to do... Did I rename the wrong district over here? I totally did, didn't I? Yeah, I did. This is going to be the highway. Or the HWE. That's going to be the highway. This is going to be Sunnyside. So I'm going to plan ahead and bring an elevated highway. We're going to do elevated highway most of the places that we can. One, because it lets us build kind of roads, obviously underneath. Now we could tunnel the highway also, but I like the look of it better, and it's ultimately easier to manage. So we'll stay with the above ground highway. Now, in order to keep things nice and symmetrical for our grid, or I shouldn't even say symmetrical, I should say parallel, we're going to build with regular roads. So that's how far apart the default highway roads are, but this is going to let us build a very parallel segment just to get us down here. That's where I want the highway to come through. When we upgrade these, we'll do 3 lanes, but those are just so much easier to build with the regular roads because they will snap to 90-degree angles where the highways will not. So for kind of framing stuff out, it makes a lot of sense to use the regular roads and then just upgrade them. Now we're playing with unlimited money here, but one thing that you'll notice is, let's do this. So let's build a regular road, 10 units. Let's pay attention to the money this time. So that's $1,040. Now if we do that with highway, it's obviously more expensive, $1,840. But what if we upgrade that $1,040 to highway, $1,840. So it costs the exact same amount of money to build a highway. But the advantage here is twofold, really. One, we can do these really harsh angles to kind of line things up a little better. And the other benefit, number 2, is that since it doesn't cost us any additional money to build in an upgrade versus build, if we make a mistake, when we have to bulldoze stuff, we're not wasting as much money in the process. So, yes, you get more money refunded back for a highway than you do for a regular road, but still, you're not getting the full value back. So if you build with the smaller roads, whatever the cheapest road is that you have on option, I think industrial might be a good option. I think that's a little cheaper. And then there is gravel roads. If you're building on the ground, they can be a little finicky when they're raised though. So now that we've got this idea that, you know, this is where our interchange is going to be, I'm going to drop in a couple turbines. I'm going to drop one in where we want to offload traffic kind of into the center of this area. And then one up here as an interchange. We can kind of use the existing traffic to line up where the highway is. And we'll drop that in as close as we can, and we can always move it later. Battery backup, shut up. I gotta pull something off it. I got one too many things plugged in so that when I'm gaming, it might complain at me if I'm driving a lot of power draw from the CPU and the GPU at the same time. So we've got that piece in. And where these bend a little bit, right? We'll get that little bit of crooked. We can come in here later. I am not going to worry about that now. The stuff that stands out, that jumps out at me on repeated views, that's the stuff that we'll worry about. But right now, we're not too worried about that. This is a fantastic interchange. I think it's got a nice look. The question is, do we drop that in as a way to kind of feed traffic into Riverside and Sunnyside? Because we need some sort of four-way interchange, right? And that could be a really good one that we could adapt using some other roads. Maybe let's talk about that concept first. So how do we adapt this into not necessarily a highway interchange, but almost a diamond exit? So that can be kind of useful because it can help a lot of traffic flow. Let's see how we can get that all in here. So we'll delete another healthy segment of our highway here for our exit, and we want to space it out a decent amount from the interchange that we've already got set up. Now in this case, let's delete, whoops, two more there. This should be good here. So the interchange kind of has two things going on, right? There's the flat piece on the bottom, and then the other piece cuts over the top. I usually like to put this underneath after, but that's something that we can tweak. And we'll kind of do that here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let's get this snapped in. Is that straight on? It looks like it is. So we'll do this. And the reason I did it that way is because we are going to level this top one, but we're going to bring this other one down. We're going to downgrade some roads and do some different things down there. But we'll show you how we can kind of convert an existing interchange like that and make it fit a slightly different purpose. So again, in this case, where this is going to be an interchange, we're going to continue. Let's just do this for now. I probably won't be straight, but we'll continue highway that way, and we'll have another exit that comes out and feeds this area. But here again, let's convert this into more of an exit feeling, where it's going to dump off into some neighborhoods. So we're going to move it quite a bit here. And what I want to do is, doesn't even matter what road, I want to come down to ground level so that I've got a node that is at actual ground level. The other thing before we get too far into our build, especially when we get away from highway, is we want to make sure that we've got a nice flat patch here, and we do. We want to make sure it's as good as possible before we start laying down our framework, our network of roads. So I'm going to bring this out just a little bit where it starts to bulge by the coast, but I don't want to affect our coastline. I still want to have a kind of a natural coast there. I just want to maximize our space, especially on Riverside for right now. And it actually looks like we're really good over here. So we could just run a quick smooth over it, because we want this to feel very modern, and I want it to feel very designed, but still kind of feel like it grew up a little bit over time. It didn't just, didn't appear overnight, but it's definitely a city designed with the future in mind. So we've got some nice flat area there to work with, Riverside and Sunnyside. And we've got a node down here that we can work with now. So we'll go into move it. And I want to go into single selection, and I'm going to pick all the things that we're going to move. So in this case, every node along this highway we want to grab. Now the tricky thing here is that we have to kind of get in and swoop our way in and out. So we've got all those things selected because we don't want to affect any of the other layers just yet. We're going to modify them all a little bit on their own. We'll select the align height tool and then select the node we want to align it to. So we're going to bring this interior or this highway that runs under here, we'll bring it down to that level, the street level. Now, the next thing that we can kind of do here is we don't have a good 4-lane one-way street, do we? I need to download some additional streets because I don't think I have a good one-way option above 2-lane. So for right now, we'll do 2-lane. I will look at replacing this though. But we can also make this a kind of a 2-lane, one-way approach. It's sort of doing the same thing. I don't know why that didn't flatten. But let's just anarchy it for now. I missed the node apparently. So we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. We're gonna turn this again into more of an exit rather than an interchange, and then we'll adapt these curves and kind of change those things. So let me flatten this node, do this on the other side, and then we'll pick up there on kind of how to tweak some of the heights and make this look a little less awkward. So we'll be right back after I change this other side. All right, so now that we've dropped those 2 lanes down below the highway, we can make room up above and kind of bring the top highway flat and even that out. We'll work on the exit ramps and the things like that after the fact. We'll smooth all those out. But what I want to do over here is I want to build kind of this collector road system. So immediately coming off the highway, we've got this arterial road, which becomes a 4-lane road. And then from there, we can build kind of we'll do a tree-lined street here. Get trees in the street, I think thanks to anarchy. Basically, what we're trying to do here is, as you get further and further from the highway, intersections can be closer and closer together. So we're going to have kind of this one road that comes over here that's going to feed all this traffic, and then that's going to dump into a few different streets that are going to handle the traffic coming this way. What I had done previously was just kind of line the grid up as tight as possible. So if you come over 11, that grid lines up exactly like you want. If you want houses kind of on top of houses or business on top of business, whatever it is. If you want to leave a little extra space for a footpath, you can come over from a wider street like the 4 or the 6 lane, that is. You can come over 12 units, and then you've got this space for, you know, a walking path or a bike path. But especially running kind of along these main avenues, I want to give people lots of options for kind of getting around. Do I have to fix the heights there a little bit? I do. That is detail work we can worry about later. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop in the regular footpaths at kind of this interval. So we're going to run through the center of each block. We're going to make a very walkable city and try and get ahead of some of our traffic problems right from the start. Now we got to be a little bit careful here with the pedestrian path tool, because if you don't, it'll snap, but it'll also leave some zoning in. So if you don't want like an office or a house or something kind of building into the middle of your footpath, be careful when you're actually zoning what you're actually taking up for space. Here I left it on both sides, unfortunately. It's a little weird sometimes how it snaps. Could be better, but what can you do? We'll go like this. So there's 2 ways you can kind of snap this. You can kind of snap it in the middle of a node, but if we do this, we're going to maximize kind of the space that's buildable, and that way we don't tie up 2 squares to get a little pedestrian pathway through there. I'm just going to do this again so that it's very walkable. I'll be right back after I finish this very basic kind of grid pattern through these streets. All right, now that we've made a very walkable city, at least in terms of our initial pedestrian paths running through the neighborhoods, we also need to make sure that they can cut across those as easily as possible. So we're going to add in a bunch of crosswalks. Now, 2 ways we can do that. If you don't have any mods, one thing you can do is simply upgrade a stretch of road to a slightly different type of road. So in this case, a tree-lined street removes the parking lane, then you get these crosswalks in between. Now we could also, if we didn't want it to be that big, we could have like a really small segment of road that wasn't connected, like that, and have this kind of little pedestrian island, if you would. But the other thing that we can do is, when I have roads and the crosswalk mod, I can put them right where I want. So I'm going to go just outside the pedestrian paths there. And this really shouldn't slow things down too much. That's just going to bother me. Let's fix that. Now, I'm not going to do any extra pedestrian paths on the bigger roads, because ideally I would like them to stick to the major intersections also. We don't want them slowing down traffic anywhere. But we'll come back in here into roads, and crosswalks, and I'm just going to quickly fly over all those intersections that we just created and quickly drop in some crosswalks. So I will be right back. Left click to create, right click to turn them off. Now I'm thinking for this road over at the coast, we probably want to raise that up a bit and have some kind of key wall over here. I think that makes sense. Let's select all these things. I take it back. Let's double click on nodes so that we're only selecting nodes. And then align heights to there. And maybe we can even have this one carry up this way. Also, I guess, should have done that. We'll flatten that one out afterwards and kind of work on what we want to do over here on the riverside. Maybe this will be like a commercial park or office park on the other side of the street that has paid for the really expensive real estate. But for right now, what do we need? We need residents. So I'm going to start zoning things off, and I want to build it up very slowly and organically and have all these neighborhoods kind of be independent little vessels of the greater city. So I'll get into zoning on the next one. Let's get one more camera shot of our city and our grid as it started. So we raised the highway up a bit. We dropped in the turbines. We started to define our grid and then dropped in some pedestrian paths. Next time, we'll get into actually moving people in and cleaning up some of the little details that that we missed here, like how bad this slope is. We could certainly, you know, we'll get into the move it tool, how to work the aligned slope and all that stuff. So tune in the next episode and I'll show you how we can turn that into that. Likes, comments, shares all help the channel a lot. You probably know the deal. You've been here before. Check out the Let's Plays on Mondays and Fridays for more of the step-by-step tutorials. And until the next one, let's see what it shows us on the cinematic camera. Until the next one, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, get in touch in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the start of ROCKDALE 2.0, what you want to see me really break down when it comes to this build. Hopefully you like this different format, something I'm going to do maybe on Wednesdays, or you know, keep an eye out for it then. I think that's when it makes the most sense. We'll still stick with the Let's Plays on Mondays and Fridays. Different videos on Wednesdays, which will definitely include updates to ROCKDALE. Hopefully you're enjoying. Hopefully you have a fantastic day. See you on the next one. Until then, this is Move the Mouse, signing off.